Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the ThyGap podcast. My name is Bogus Noog, and with me, as always, is
Being brute.
Brute. This week, we are doing empathy. It's not easy.
Yes.
It's a quality which is in short supply, especially from your direction to me at all times.
And I look at it as a rare commodity in this room where it is with only one person.
That's yourself.
Yes.
How can our listeners empathize with us? Well, of course, by following our award-winning socials. Yeah. Which is very quickly, Brute. On Instagram, we are.
@_ThyGap.
And Twitter and Vero.
@ThyGap.
And our email is.
mindthygap@gmail.com.
That's it. Short and sweet. Quick empathy. Follow us.
Show us empathy.
Yeah. So, as is our want, it's the award-winning template. It's not easy.
Universe famous template.
Yes. And the template always starts off by us explaining the context of empathy. Brute, what does empathy mean to you?
Bogus, as a person who is very empathetic to nobody, I'm going to give a very unbiased context.
Okay.
Fundamentally, empathy is understanding the need of the hour and responding to that
Okay.
in the manner in which it deserves.
Okay.
To set an example, if somebody comes to you and say rants about office problem or something, your ability to understand what that person is expecting from you and to deliver that is what is empathy according to me.
Okay.
A lot of people confuse it to empathy is you understanding how I feel for a situation or towards a subject. And expecting the other person to replicate that feeling, which I'm not completely in agreement to.
Okay.
And in fact, even we checked out the etymology,
Right.
where empathy is defined as in feel.
Yeah, it's broken up into two root words. The first one means in,
Yeah,
and the other one means feeling.
correct. And if you look at that definition closely, Bogus, the definition itself is very unempathetic towards the reader or
Yeah.
the seeker of the definition.
Yes.
Because it's so difficult to understand. Like, I don't get this. What do you mean by in feeling?
Yeah.
So that is where the ice breaks there itself, that it's not an easy thing, which is
Yeah.
why we have chosen to include empathy as an emotion in our long segment of It's Not Easy. And that is where I come from.
Yeah, and it goes even further than that in terms of being not easy, the etymology, because the word which we said meant feeling,
Yeah,
that's the root word in one language,
Yeah.
like Old Greek or something.
obviously. Like,
But
the
that
Greeks,
word
bloody
itself-
Greeks.
But that word itself has another root word in Proto-Indo-European,
Oh,
which means suffering.
so typical of these Europeans.
How do we make sense of that? You know,
By releasing this episode.
yeah,
That's our solution to everything.
yeah,
We want to make sense of something, release It's Not Easy.
yeah. So Proto-Indo-European actually does not mean technically Europe. It actually means Sanskrit, Avestan, which is the Parsi old language. That I don't know why they tagged along European to it, because they believe in the Aryan invasion theory and all that stuff. But actually, it is from our parts.
So when you said Proto-Indo-European, I thought it is basically the Britishers trying to push their culture across Europe.
no. It's
And
actually,
wherever they thought it was Europe, which
Yeah.
was pretty long away from Europe.
yeah, no. Proto-Indo-European, which is PIE, goes back to a combination of either Sanskrit or Avestan.
Oh, see, that's where I already established I can't empathize with these things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. I don't get it off the bat.
Let's just end the episode right now.
We are disqualified to do this episode. But what according to you is empathy, Bogus?
Yeah, for me, empathy is just the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and look at the same thing. Try to look at the same thing from their perspective, maybe, and try to get out of yourself and your own ego and think about the other person
Yeah.
for a second.
If you want to just double down on what you said, the reason why I feel that's a very far-fetched thought is to do that, it demands a lot of experience in
Yeah.
oneself, number one.
Yeah,
And the other rare commodity, which we keep bringing it up in our conversations, is it demands a lot of wisdom.
yes,
So in that sense, empathy is not easily achievable,
yes.
right? So a
Hence,
kid...
it's not easy.
Sorry?
Hence, it's not easy.
Hence, it's
yes.
not easy.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you still see empathy in younger people,
yeah,
who lack experience and who lack wisdom.
yeah.
which is why I have a different take to it, which is, it is not about putting yourself in other person's shoes. It is but to understand what the other person's expectations are.
Okay.
And also why I come down to that is you use this word a lot in professions like sales, teaching,
Yeah.
corporate doctors or whatever, because it is one of the pivotal cogs for you to be a good communicator. Right?
Yes.
So if you look at it from that perspective, it's not about what you can do, but it is about what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where it takes away the competence aspect of it with respect to that subject or that point of conversation.
Right. You mentioned earlier that, you saw empathy being misinterpreted in one way, more commonly by people.
Yeah.
In my own experience, I've seen people misinterpret it to mean sympathy. Where when you say empathy, they always picturize a sequence where you have to feel bad for someone else.
Yeah.
Which is sympathy. It's not really empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy is not always in that dramatic situation where someone is sad and you have to put a shoulder around
Correct.
them. It's not that. Empathy can be very non-dramatic also.
Yeah.
We'll go into examples for that as well. But I think as far as context setting is concerned, I think this should
do. And the other reason why we picked up and why it is important to learn the basic fundamental of empathy is, again, for me, it is very similar to the integrity episode. It's not easy. The one which we did.
Check it out.
Where it is so loosely used.
Yes.
And it has come to a point that if you can't do it, you are a criminal.
Yeah.
But if you're pointing at someone saying that, oh, you can't empathize with XYZ, how can you even be a human being? You need to understand the person. You don't have empathy for you to say something like that. If you really have empathy,
you
then
wouldn't say it.
Yeah. Which is why it is important how you perceive empathy. How do you understand the mechanics of empathy?
Yeah.
And obviously, for you to understand anything, the first fundamentals is understand why you can't do it.
Yeah.
Which is why it's not easy.
No, I totally agree with you about the correlation of integrity and empathy in the sense of how easily those words are just thrown out. Just thrown about.
It's like, forget the vomited on your face.
Yeah, without any attention to application.
Correct.
At all.
Correct.
The other episode that we did, which it reminded me of, was courage. It's not easy. Because in that episode, we said courage is actually one of those foundational, values.
Correct.
That you need to have at the very core to be able to do things in your life.
Correct.
This also, I feel, is right there.
Yeah. If you take the infinity stones, it's one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So I think we can move on to our next segment of the famous It's Not Easy template, which is empathy. Why is it not easy, Brood?
Bogus, like I mentioned, I'm the right person to talk about this, considering the reasons that we're going to lay out.
You're the only one who mentions that, yes. Mm-hmm.
Empathy is a high EQ game.
Emotional quotient, yeah.
Yeah, it's a high EQ game. And we can go into this tunnel and talk about it for the longest time. Because the moment you're talking about emotional quotient, first we have to understand what emotional quotient is. But if we skip all that and go why this is related to empathy, for you to be in a position to gauge somebody's mental state, you should have a good antenna for what kind of emotion is surrounding that conversation.
Yeah.
And if you misread that with even a little to the left or right, then the blowback to your reaction is horrible. Yeah. And it sometimes, in my own experience, is scarring for both the parties. Which is why I say that it's a very high EQ game if you really want to apply or even execute empathy. Yeah,
so just a little context for our listeners for that. EQ, emotional quotient, is a word that more recently started becoming popular because up until then, IQ, intelligence quotient, is what was always touted as the ultimate measure of someone's ability and all that stuff.
There are actually 3, by the way. As of the psychological standards or American Association of Psychology, the 3 parameters that they check for a complete
like a holistic
mind, holistic individual. One is IQ, which is a cognitive ability.
Right.
Then there is EQ, which is the relational development ability.
Right.
And then the third one, which is coming up, where there's still kind of the multiple schools of thoughts around it, is the SQ, which is called the spiritual quotient.
Oh, I thought you were going with something else. Okay.
Yeah, and that is what exactly why we should not be doing this episode.
Hey, after we did seduction, it's not easy. Check it out.
Yeah,
I
but
thought, yeah.
but the whole holistic mind or an individual is comprised of these three aspects.
Okay.
Is what they have found out, because all the three have an equal impact on your functioning.
Yeah.
So they say that every individual at some level is spiritual, and that quotient kind of defines their outlook and the perception of their surroundings and every action they take. So they have an influence on your decision making, basically.
Right. So what do you think is not easy about EQ as much?
The first thing is, like, I think it again connects to that measure of men thing. The very fact that we quite do not know what we have.
We don't know what we have.
We are in a state, and at least in the time we are growing up now, and with all the kinds of insecurities and complexes we have,
Right.
we need to look back and think that, okay, how did I manage my emotions during pressure situations? And most often than not, we're like, nah, you know what, I took a decision which was too emotional than necessary and all.
Right.
Now, when we are not able to gauge our own emotions in a certain situation, it is an uphill task to do it for an unknown person or an outsider.
Yeah.
And more often than not, we quite don't know people as we used to back in the day.
Right.
Like, our social circles are reducing. When your real interactions are reducing, your ability of absorbing different people's emotions and kind of getting a hang of what emotion looks like how
Yeah.
is also kind of reducing.
Right.
So because that ability is being lost for us, we do not know how to connect to the other people.
Yeah.
That is really important for empathy, to go into a room and immediately gauge. So like a stand-up comic, for example, if I take a profession, a stand-up comic goes into a room, an open mic, and the first thing they're trying to do is gauge who are his target audience, with whom read the room.
Read the room, as they
Right?
say. Yeah.
That you will do by their emotional response more than their suit or their appearance. So if we are not able to gauge emotional response, how the hell are we supposed to understand how we respond to that response?
Yeah.
That emotion.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a high EQ game. You need to be on the toes. You need to be in that position to tap into somebody's emotional energy.
Yeah.
And then you tune your own emotional energy to that level,
Right.
so that the message is going through. And the thing that we also spoke about is empathy is a lot about action than words.
Yes.
So if I want to convey through my actions, I need to have a higher emotional understanding.
Yeah.
Which is why, they correlate, according to me.
Yeah. I mean, because people tend to misinterpret empathy for sympathy, they tend to think that, oh, I'll just say a few words, a few comforting words, and that's my job done.
Yeah.
But it doesn't register, and it doesn't even have a lasting effect.
Correct.
But as opposed to that, if you are actually showing your empathy in actions, that is something people will remember for a very long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, again, actions speak louder than words, cliches.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But this is where it fits really well, according to me.
Yeah.
Like the example that I think of is, if you go to any funeral, you will always have the urge to strike a conversation,
Right.
or you feel the need to give some comforting words.
Yeah.
But if you actually look back, what would that person remember? Or if it was, someone close to you who's passed away and you are conducting the funeral,
Yeah.
what you would remember the most is that person who would look you eye to eye
Yeah.
and just be quiet. Who gives you that space, saying that, I'm physically here. I know there's a lot going in your mind. All you need to do is look at me, ask me whatever you want, and I'm there. I'll get it done. That is a lot more reassuring than somebody coming and telling me, you know what, I completely get what you're going through.
Yeah.
I know it's a huge loss. I know words won't describe this, but you need to be strong.
Yeah.
I get it. Look, what I need is peace, quiet,
Exactly.
silence. Just be quiet.
Yeah.
The one person who I want to talk to me is dead.
Yeah.
So be quiet. I don't want to listen to anything.
Yeah.
So that is where I feel that you need to have that antenna for what is the kind of emotion somebody is going through, and then either reciprocate that emotion if you can, or at least support that emotion.
Right. The other thing that I feel why empathy is not easy is, it's kind of connecting to this point. It's also because of the present social engineering that's going on, the cultural engineering that's going on.
Yeah.
People are driven more and more to a highly competitive and comparative state, which causes them always to think about themselves more,
Yeah.
to put themselves first, and then think about everyone else.
Yeah.
So that negative kind of selfishness is being sort of engineered into society also. And the more that happens, the more walls are being built up. Like we tend to derive our value and derive our differentiation through superficial metrics like financial status, job,
Correct.
the designation in the office,
Yeah.
the number of followers you have,
Social media
clout,
rep.
rep and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It is so superficial because that actually is the walls that are being put up because of which you're not able to empathize with people.
Yeah.
But we have to understand that if anyone wants to improve their ability for empathy, the highest form of empathy, I feel, is like at the very peak. It is to realize that forget about all these social metrics, forget about all these artificial, designations and all that we bother about. It's all nothing but a LARP. It is nothing but a game that we're playing.
What is LARP?
LARP is live action role playing.
Why can't you just say that?
It's a gaming term. So basically, LARPing is like cosplay, something like that, where you're playing pretend,
You could have used that in the first place.
No, it makes sense because that's exactly what we do in the workplace. And
You play a role.
and I tried to communicate this to my team also, in the past. I've tried to explain to them, see, the role or designation of a manager that I have is just a designation. Your designation is just a title.
Yeah.
The guy above us who's sitting in Europe or US or whatever, that's also just a title.
Yeah.
At the end of it, we're all just people.
Right.
So the minute you find yourself modifying your behavior too much because of just this designation, the minute you find yourself accepting things that don't have merit, just because it came from someone with so-and-so authority position, that is when you know that you're going astray.
Correct.
Because at the end of it, we're all just people and we're all LARPing. That's it. We're all playing pretend that, oh, I'm a manager. But physically, do they have more hands? Do they have more legs? Can they fly?
Yeah.
There's no real tangible superiority there.
Yeah.
It is just a level that bases our experience by giving ourselves. The same thing with financial wealth, etc.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all just people. And across cultures, even if we have different languages, different cultures, etc., as human beings, there are so many things that are common among all of
We
us.
breathe the same.
Yeah,
We
the
eat
body
the same.
functions the same. It doesn't function any different for a different race,
Yeah.
etc., etc. Genetically, there may be some preconditions, but that's biology. That's fine.
Yeah.
The thing is, once this really sinks to the bone, right, this realization, it becomes so much more easy to empathize with people because you always remember that, yes, at the end of the day, I don't need to treat this person too differently because they're just like me.
Yeah.
He could be a waiter at a restaurant. That doesn't mean I have to boss him around.
Yeah.
Oh,
that is a big tell.
That's the whole customer
Huge
service
tell.
industry.
Yeah.
There's so much abuse that goes on there.
Yeah.
Only because people don't empathize.
Yeah.
Even if the company did you wrong, there is a level of empathy where you realize that the guy talking to me is just some
Another
young
person.
guy out of college.
Right.
He's just following the rules that
Right.
they're supposed to follow. So if I have anger and frustration, let me take it out where I can actually get something out of it.
Yeah.
This guy, he just has to follow rules. So I'll call his boss or I'll do something else. I'll put up a post on social media, try and embarrass the company.
Yeah.
So they'll feel pressurized to give me what I want.
Correct.
That is where my brain should be going.
Yeah.
And not about, oh, I got this guy. Now,
I am going to
1 hour, I'm just going to rip him to shreds.
Yeah.
Why?
kill his ego.
Exactly.
Yeah, the thing that really bothers me is what you mentioned in the beginning, where there's a need of having a selfish I'm first,
Yeah.
right? It's about me and I'm going to see what I will do if I'm in another place.
Yeah.
And that misinterpretation of sympathy, right? Like where they think that, oh, if I feel bad for him and, I feel pity for them,
Yeah.
then I'm doing my bit as empathetic.
Right.
The whole idea is being packaged as empathy.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest problem, where the very fundamental understanding of empathy itself is being distorted.
Yes.
By saying that if you can put yourself in that shoes and think from their perspective, etc., or even more so like, oh, I am in such and such position, I am bound by my role or my status. That is not empathy.
Like HR people.
Yeah, there's so many functions like bankers.
Yeah.
So like, dude, it is what it is. You need to pay this much of interest, or they're selling you a banking product or something. That is not empathy. That's like you say you're doing your job, great. That's why you're being paid. But if you package it as empathy, dude, you need to understand I'm working in your favor. And if the logic doesn't fit, you have no right to say that you're working in my favor.
Yeah.
You're scheming off me. It's as simple as that. So I even have a problem with the distortion of the fundamental meaning of empathy itself.
That is one of the biggest problems we have in ThyGap, where language is being fucked with.
Oh, yeah. Like by us?
No, not by
It's
us.
a common problem, yeah.
We are cleaning up the dirt, actually.
Correct.
We are doing janitor work.
You
over
know,
here.
I don't think we get paid enough.
We're doing Pakiza shit. But yeah, I mean, one example that I can think of to break the myth of that empathy, sympathy misinterpretation is if I'm in a supermarket, I have a bunch of things in my trolley.
Yeah.
I go to the cash register and there's a girl. She weighs everything, all
Right.
the fruits, and she
Bills it and puts
scans it and bills it. So what I've seen majority of the people do is they just stand about idle.
Yeah.
They wait for them to, do the whole thing
everything,
themselves,
yeah.
by themselves.
Yeah.
So she has to now take things from my shopping basket or
Yeah.
the trolley. She has to scan everything. She has to find the barcode.
Yeah.
And then she has to put everything aside.
Yeah.
Once that's done, then they ask me if I need a big bag or a small bag or whatever.
Yeah.
Then when I say, yes, I need this kind of takeaway bag, then she starts bagging everything herself.
Right.
And I've never seen anyone do anything different apart from just standing idle and checking their phone and all that.
Yeah.
What I do there is, first of all, when she needs to scan things, right?
Yeah.
I start picking out things from my shopping basket and I look at where the barcode is.
Yeah. And put it in that way.
And I give it to her hands, barcode side facing first. So she doesn't have to dig and search for the barcode. Immediately she scans it and then she puts it aside. So the scanning phase gets done much quicker
Yeah.
because of that. Then I move on to the next stage. And when she gives me the bag, I hold the bag for her so that she can actually,
It's easier for her to
it's
put.
easier for her to pack it in.
Yeah.
There's no bag holder there. So what is happening there is, because I realized that this chick is already having a lot to do and she's doing my work.
Yeah.
She's not doing something out of her own fun and frolic and all
Right.
that. She's doing my work. So if I collaborate with her, then what I want to do is I want to get out of the supermarket as soon as possible.
Right.
I want to get my work done.
Yeah.
So if I collaborate with her in this instant,
Also because she's a chick, you want to collaborate with.
no, even if it's a guy, it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Okay.
If-
I thought it was gender specific.
This isn't Q-Mart. No. So if I collaborate with them, then my work is getting done faster and I'm out of that place.
Yeah.
So I'm helping myself, but I'm also helping them.
You're getting out of her way.
But I'm also
fast.
helping them. You know,
Right.
I'm not throwing the entire workload on their shoulders for no reason. I'm just standing idle. I'm not doing anything.
Right.
I might as well pitch in.
Right.
It's my own work. These are my bag, my groceries, and all that stuff. So that also is empathy. There is no sympathy there.
Yeah. For me, this is where empathy fails. You know what? I place a order for my groceries in an Instamart or whatever.
Right.
Then I go to that place and say like, hey, I placed an order. I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
Why don't you give it to me? I'll pick it up. And they never do that. They're like, we don't trust you. You don't look like the guy who placed the order. And they never give my own groceries. So I have to come back all the way home.
Yeah.
Wait near the gate for the delivery guy to come and give me my own stuff. So I try to empathize with the delivery guy, but it doesn't work like that for them, which is very annoying.
What is another reason why you think it's not easy?
Empathy, it's a no-brainer. For me, see, empathy is very contextual. Like I said in the beginning, it depends on the need of the hour.
Right.
So if you really want to understand the emotions of that moment, you need to be in the present, which is a big problem for us.
Yes.
In general, and I'm not talking about myself here.
No, in general.
In
yeah.
general, there's a big problem for us to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Probably a very trained athlete or, a supremely trained top-notch CEO or someone where they are going through that drills of, okay, you have 10 minutes. This is the best way you can utilize your time.
Or like a hardcore professional chef.
Hardcore professional chef, right?
Yeah.
All these guys, maybe. But the general audience, we have a huge issue in being in the present.
Yeah.
Which is why half of the time we are not happy, right? Because we overlook what we have around us. And empathy is that. Like I said, it is correlated to you understanding the need of the hour in that moment. So we are always lost in thought about what is going to happen
Yeah.
or what has already happened. And we are never in tune with what is happening.
Yes.
I'll give you a great example. And this is a story that Matt Damon told. So Matt Damon met Tom Cruise in some event. And Matt Damon just did Jason Bourne. And he did all this action sequence and is getting ready for the next part. And Tom Cruise he just released the Mission Impossible, one of the parts. So when the moment he got a chance, Matt Damon was very curious to learn from Tom Cruise of how he goes about with his action sequence.
Right.
the story is not about what they conversed. When Matt Damon went to Tom Cruise, the first thing that he realized was the amount of attention Tom Cruise gave to Matt Damon.
Right.
Whereas Tom Cruise had no business giving. He's the biggest superstar. He could, on a snap of his fingers, he can get other people to do his job or whatever.
Yeah.
But when Matt Damon went to him and, got that 2 minutes or 3 minutes of time from Tom Cruise, the amount of attention he gave overwhelmed Matt Damon, saying
Right.
that, when he speaks to you, he's speaking to you.
Right.
For me, that is empathy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
in that particular example, it was about Tom Cruise not being a star, Tom Cruise not being a colleague, not just another person who's an action expert or anything.
Yeah.
It was all about Tom Cruise just listening to what Matt Damon had to ask.
Right.
And that's another very important skill, which is like the concept of active listening. Why we are not in the present most of the times? Because we are preparing for the response.
Yeah.
And in that pursuit, whenever you are preparing to respond, you either are placing yourself higher or lower.
Yeah.
You either think of asking a follow-up question or you think of giving a solution or a concrete answer.
At the same time, the other person is still talking,
Yeah.
but you're not absorbing that anymore.
Yeah, you're
because
nowhere.
You're inside your head.
Yeah, it's like body present, mind absent.
Yeah.
It's that kind of situation. So being in the present, I feel it's very closely related to empathy, in executing empathy.
Yeah, I think how I feel about that is being in the present is a hack kind of thing. Like if someone wants to get better at empathy,
Yeah.
practicing this will
Yeah.
definitely get
Yeah,
better.
active listening always, is that hook for you to concentrate on what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Which brings back to my favorite saying of JK.
Okay. Jiddu Krishnamurti.
Jiddu Krishnamurti, which is observing with zero judgment is the
Yes.
highest form of intelligence.
Zero evaluation, zero judgment. Yeah.
And the same thing is also told about empathy. Empathy is the highest form of wisdom. And in a very weird way, you see the commonality in the execution of it. Like observing with zero judgment is all about being in the present.
Yes.
And showing empathy, if you look at it in one way, is also about being in the present.
Yes.
Which is why I give a lot of value to empathy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is rare. You don't find that kind of empathy. You don't feel that every day or
Yeah.
very often.
Yeah. You hear people try to say it, verbalize it a lot.
That is the first thing that I realized that they are not empathetic.
Exactly. Just like how they try to throw integrity around.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other reason why I feel it's not easy is it's kind of a funny, twisted conundrum in today's society because of the social and cultural conditioning again of what we said. People are putting themselves first, and all
Yeah.
that. Another side effect of that is people are also preoccupied with outcomes a lot.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do, they want outcomes, or they're thinking only about outcomes. And there's an absolute lack of patience. They want to get it fast, instant
Yeah.
gratification, We keep hearing people say, like quotable quotes, don't worry about the outcomes, focus on the process.
Yeah.
Process, it's not easy, something we've done, check it out.
And share.
And share, yeah. It's about the journey
Yeah.
more than it's about the
Destination.
destination. So don't focus on the outcome a lot, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So for all these people who are so obsessed about outcomes, the lack of focus on empathy is what is darkly funny for me, because it is empathy that will actually get you to your outcome.
Yeah.
More often than not. And why I say this is, it's something that we mentioned in a previous episode also. People are actually the biggest currency of all.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which walk of life you choose, which profession you want to go to. It doesn't matter what you want to do with your life. Basically, the common factor among all of these things is people.
Yeah.
You have to, at the end of the day, work with people in order to get things done, because there's hardly anything ever you can get done by yourself.
Yeah.
Which means if you have to work with people to get things done, that means you need to know how to collaborate with people.
Absolutely true.
And if you have to collaborate with people, that means you have to understand how people function.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of trial and error and hit and miss. Because if you're constantly putting yourself first, then you're approaching people with that selfish outlook, not bothering about, whether your request or your desire also appeals to them or not.
Yeah.
Then more often than not, you're going to be walking back with a no, or people who don't want to align with your goals or don't want to collaborate with you on your goals because they don't see what's so great about it, or they don't relate with it.
Yeah.
So for majority of the people who are obsessed with outcomes, if you actually empathized with people a lot more, if you understood this fact that people are the biggest currency, and then you approach someone with a request or with a desire or, to collaborate, to invite them to work with you, then rather than constantly talking about you, what you want, how you thought of it, why it's important for you and all that, if you took 5 minutes to think about who is it am I talking to, how would this appeal to them, how can I talk to them in a way that this appeals to them, how can I find the common interest or the common goal that will unify us? This is something that we talked about in negotiation. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Check it out.
The win-win situation.
Yeah, it's the win-win situation. You create the common unifier or the common unification so that people will also want to come aboard and they will feel that, okay, this is not just his goal, but I can see where my objective also lies in that.
Yeah.
In the bigger picture. So I can see how I can contribute and how can I make this better with my own skill set.
Yeah.
Unless you do that, you're not going to walk away with your outcome that you're so obsessed with. And like we said in the previous ThyGap podcast, the ultimate goal of life has to be to have your cake and eat it too.
I don't know what's your obsession with cake. Do you have a craving? Do you have a sweet tooth or something?
Yeah. The ultimate goal is to always get your way.
Yeah.
Whatever you want in life, it should be easy and effortless for you to actually achieve it. That's the goal. And what's standing in between you and your goal, more often than not, it is people that can actually open doors for you.
Yeah, I'll quote what Kobe Bryant said. Success is 10% talent, 10% hard work, and 80% man management.
Yeah.
And any good leader is empathetic towards his people.
Yeah.
If I cannot stand on the same page with you,
Right.
irrespective of the hierarchy, then we are always going to have a different read of the situation.
Yeah.
If you want to establish a deep connection with anybody, at some level there is empathy.
Yeah.
Some part of that connection is because of empathy.
Yeah.
What you say is so true that it is scary. It is so scary because I see that lack every single day,
Oh, yeah.
where it is transactional in nature.
Very.
It doesn't have any depth
Yeah.
of personalization.
Yeah.
And I feel only bad for the younger generation where the empathy it starts and stops at what is our favorite team, and that's about it.
Yeah.
It is not about how you feel towards normal things. So yeah, it is scary and it is so necessary, man. Like it's so primitive for us that I'm shocked that it is not being properly communicated to or properly, being taught to people.
I like the usage of the word scary in that context because that's not something usually people would use in the context that we were talking
because,
about.
see, we are ThyGap, bro.
I want to explore, and also we are ThyGap because like you said, for the younger generation, that's why we're here.
We are the Bible. We are the polygraphs of the future. It's a message from the past.
Yeah, which means we'll take all your money and burn you at the stake.
Yes.
But subscribe and share.
And build pyramids.
Subscribe and share. But what is actually scary about how powerful empathy is? It is scary when you would see other people make such a mountain of how it is so difficult for them to succeed.
Yeah.
It is so difficult for them to get the one thing that they want out of their job or the one thing that they want out of, something in their life. It's scary because once you just apply this, you won't believe yourself how easily you're getting everything you want.
Yeah.
And you're consistently getting everything you want.
Yeah.
People are openly inviting you to take what you want, basically.
Yeah.
And they're feeling good about giving you what you want.
Yeah.
That is where it gets scary. It's like, am I robbing these people? Like, no. They're happily collaborating with you.
Yeah.
Because they are joyfully involved with you in this.
Yeah.
And it is also scary because it has such undeniable real world consequences. Like, I have a very quick example about this. It's a very simple example also. On the surface, it doesn't look like anything. But in my apartment complex, the apartment where I live in, there are 2 gates. So one gate which is closer to my car. So it's very easy for me to get in and get out.
Right.
Because the gate is very close to my car, my parking spot. And just beside mine is my neighbor's parking spot. Okay. And then there are these lines that someone painted. They're okay, this parking spot.
Guiding lines.
These are the boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries, it's not easy. Check it out.
And share.
Yeah. So these are the boundaries for your parking spot.
Shall we just drop randomly
Everything,
episode names?
No. Ours are always situational.
Were the boundaries
contextual.
accepted? Acceptance, it's not easy.
No, we should not do that. But so this neighbor had just moved into our apartment. Okay, new guy to our apartment. So my car actually went just a little bit beyond that boundary. And that too not the entire front bonnet. It's just a corner because I have to park it in a slant.
Yeah.
So this guy was just new and he was also young, about my age or whatever. So, hormones and vigor and vitality and all that. So he got the watchman to call me down. He's like, who is this guy who is parking here? Call him down. So watchman calls me up and says, hey, this guy wants you to, he's flipping.
Watchman's being watchman.
Yeah, he's like flipping mad, bro. You gotta come down and all that. So I was like, okay. So I went down.
I gave him the stuff, dude. Nothing calms him down, bitch.
I went down to talk to this guy, and I could make out from some distance that this guy was ready for a confrontation.
Yeah.
Like, he was ready, And as soon as I went there, he started unloading in my face. How can you do this? Don't you see this line? This line means you have to be behind that. That's it. That's what the line means, And he's trying to argue with me. First of all, he's a new guy.
Yeah.
And we've never been introduced. That's the first conversation I'm having with him. So usually when you start conversing with someone in the first time, like this, they're going to be your enemies for life.
Right.
Right? Pretty much.
If it starts like this, it's going to end like that.
You're going to hold grudges and you'll always have that Cold War going on and all that. And when he was unloading on me because my car crossed the line, etc., I was trying to explain to him in a normal way. So the first negotiation tactic I was trying to do, which is, I'll be calm. Are you rageful? Then I'll be calm and I'll try to bring you down to my level.
Right.
Not happening. He was thinking, okay, this is giving me the upper hand because this guy is being submissive.
Yeah.
So then immediately I switched my tack and I started unloading even more intensely in his face. I was like, wait, boss, what the fuck are you talking about? First of all, you're talking about this line. If I go behind this line, then my car comes out that much out of the parking spot.
Yeah.
If my car comes out that much out of the parking spot, then all these other people won't be able to take their car out of the gate.
Right.
So the reason why I come inside that much is because I want to allow the other people to go.
Right.
And he was like, no, how can you do that? That's the line, but you can't cross the line. I was like, fuck your line. We're all neighbors at the end of the day. Some fucker came and drew this line and went away. But you and I have to live with each other every day, right? You're my neighbor, I'm your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So even though my car is coming inside your parking spot that much, it is not blocking your way really.
Yeah.
If it was blocking your way, I wouldn't do it. I'm doing it for all the other people. And they are our neighbors also.
Yeah.
So if we do this because it's convenient to you, or if I start thinking it's convenient to me and I start living my life that way, then we can't live in a society like this. You go take an independent house, you live like that.
Right.
When I said that, right, even though we were rageful and even though we were yelling, he kind of saw that, okay, this guy is coming from a different place. Whatever he's saying, I can't fight too much because he's not only thinking about me.
Yeah.
He's saying he's thinking about all these other people also.
He just successfully made me the enemy of the whole society.
Yeah, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we are on such great talking terms now. Every time we see each other, we smile, we say hi, we have a conversation.
A small peck here and there.
Maybe, if the mood strikes. But that is how much empathy converted that stage from where usually if empathy was not applied, we would be sworn enemies.
Yeah.
If it was conventional people. But because at least one of the individuals applied empathy in that situation, the other person got to see that, okay, I'm not dealing with some superficial guy that I might have dealt with earlier.
Right.
This guy is also talking sense.
Right.
I can see where he's coming from. And our relation completely switched, flipped on its head.
Yeah.
This is not the only thing. The other example in my same apartment is when people, now he's as young as I am, right? I said, right? So we have a habit of going out in the nights and coming back late in the nights. So whenever he used to come back and the gate was locked, typically he and other neighbors of mine, they used to just keep honking. Late in the night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Doesn't
honking matter. Late in the night because their expectation was there is a fucking watchman.
Yeah, his job.
That's his job. We're paying the fucking watchman. He has to wake up, he has to come and he has to open the gate and close the gate.
Right.
So they used to keep honking in anger like that.
Right.
But the people who were living in first floor, second floor, their sleep was ruined because of that.
Yeah.
Constant honking. So I never said anything about this, but my habit was if I come after 12 a.m., after midnight, then opening and closing of the gate is my duty.
Right.
So I get out of the car, I turn off the engine, I open the gate, put my car inside, again close the gate and silently go back up. If I'm coming back home before midnight, then I think it is the watchman's job.
Right.
So I don't honk the car, but if I come back before 12 and I see the gate is closed, then I open the gate, put my car inside, but I don't close the gate back. I leave it open. Because for me, it's like, watchman, that's your fucking job.
Yeah.
Go close the gate later.
That's called having your cake.
And eating it too.
Yeah.
So I'm not disturbing my neighbors in the first floor.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm giving a message to my watchman. And I'm also giving a message to my neighbors, because this same guy, this neighbor that I talked about, and other people, they observed me doing this. That, wait, this guy is opening
By himself.
And is silently closing the gate also, and
Yeah.
is not making any fuss about it. They started following that example, dude.
Yeah.
They stopped the honking. The honking stopped without me uttering a word. It was just through actions.
Yeah.
And they started opening and closing the gate, because my funda was simple. Okay, yeah, there is a watchman, but you're coming way back late in the night. He has to sleep also. And his work starts in the morning next day. Isn't this your house also?
It's a mass empathy.
Yeah. Isn't this apartment building your house also? So if your home had a gate, wouldn't you be bothered about closing and opening the gate yourself? So if it's an independent house, then you're bothered about the gate. But if it's an apartment, now you don't care.
Yeah.
This is your house too. This is our house too. This is all of our house.
Yeah.
So we have to treat it like our house. That means the gate opening and closing after a certain time becomes our responsibility. It's a shared responsibility. So this sense of community is lost.
Yeah.
And it's degraded, but the unspoken example that I said there, they just started copying it, because they felt like I kind of look little snobbish. I kind of look little
You
arrogant.
are. You don't
From a
kind
distance.
of. You are.
But listeners of this podcast know I have a heart of gold.
Yes,
But
especially the
subscribe and share.
disregard. Disregard to controlling the length of those examples
Yeah.
shows how snobbish you are.
Yeah, I'm just
You could
sorry
have
about
covered
that,
that whole.
passionate. I was just passionate about it.
See, ThyGap is a passionate channel.
Subscribe and share.
Yeah, fund it.
Yeah.
Fund the passion.
Yeah.
You could have simply told the example of how you stop at a red light and everybody else also stops because you did. Even though if there are people around you who don't mind breaking the red light, but even if nobody's looking, if you choose to follow the rules, it eventually becomes contagious. There will be those guys who one after the other who also oblige the red light.
No, but
and the scary part, I just want to tell
in this example, why they copied the example is they also saw that I was being empathetic to the watchman.
Yeah.
I could have honked and I could have yelled at him, but I don't do any of that. I just, I'm coming late in the night after everyone sleeps.
Yeah.
Then I'll do it.
It's also called accountability, which is soon going to be, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy accountability.
When it comes out,
The other part why I'm scary, like
why you use the word scary.
Why I use the word scary is if this becomes a norm of the distorted understanding of empathy.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer, again, it's subjective. I'm a strong believer in common conscious.
Yes.
You will lose empathy as a society if we get the wrong understanding of empathy. And in what you said, what scares me in what you said is the whole ideology of it's me first, let me look about myself, let me think about myself and then figure out for others, etc., etc. It is a fair logic in its own sense, but not under empathy. I do not deny selfishness. I say selfishness is important.
There is a positive side to selfishness.
There is a necessity of selfishness.
Yes.
But you cannot package it as empathy.
Bro, selfishness is not easy.
It's not easy. I think we have done it. We have to do it.
Yeah, we have to do it.
How can we be so unselfish?
Yeah.
We have to do selfishness. It's not easy. But packaging that as empathy and distorting the whole fundamental value of it, I fear if that becomes the norm. Because once it becomes a norm, there's no going back. You go to a point where it is not reversible anymore. And that is scary for me.
It's not just you that believes in common conscious. I believe in common conscious also.
Yeah, but you believe in the snobbish common conscious.
And it's not just us that believe in it. The people who are doing the social engineering, right?
They do too.
They do it for this very reason.
Yeah.
Because they believe in the common conscious also. And they do it especially for this because if you get large enough groups of people to behave in a certain way, that's
enough. They will take it forward by themselves.
Exactly.
Which is what scares me.
Yeah.
Because the rate at which I see people using empathy so loosely, the rate at which I see people condemning other people with this false understanding of empathy and saying that you are not empathizing, throwing these statements that, you don't empathize with these people, how dare you?
No, it's good that you went into that.
I feel really scared about all that because
it's a big valid fear to have.
Yeah. I mean,
because it's already happening.
Also, it is for the next generation. This conversation connects to, the conversation we were having the other day at Prost.
Yeah.
Prost is a pub where you should go. Great food. It is like this. Absolutely.
Don't even sponsor us.
Unnecessary
Prost, if you're
sponsorship.
listening.
Yeah, Prost.
Right.
Hyderabad Prost.
Yeah.
Not any other Prost. It connects to that because, the level of disconnect or almost disregard they had
Right.
in that conversation for the future or the generations coming up, and seeing that there is no need to correct anything of ourselves. For me, it almost went to a point of entitled or elitist behavior.
Yeah.
Saying that, okay, I don't have a problem. So,
Why should I care?
yeah, I mean, if things are happening around me, I'm fine with them. And which I kind of was a little like, no, not you at least.
Yeah.
You are supposedly, the people who we were talking to were the guys who are the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Who I felt were the cream of the crop. And when they have this kind of an attitude, it's not thinking or anything.
Yeah.
It is an attitude, right? When they have that kind of an attitude, it is kind of scary.
Yes.
Saying that, okay, they are getting there almost.
And this is the problem that we observed with these technocrats.
Yes. You name the head honchos. Again.
And also
And the justification I hear is the worst. It's like, oh, high IQ people have low EQ. That's why, all these things, they can't empathize. I'm like, no. And this is where I tell the third, my final point of why it's not easy. Empathy is a lot of common sense. So I cannot stand a reason where people say this is the reason for my disability to empathize. IQ is not a reason to not empathize.
Yeah.
High IQ is not a reason. If you tell me the reason is, dude, I didn't think about it or be straight about it, I like fair. Because when you are having a decent amount of emotional understanding and you have somehow trained to be in the present, your instinctive reaction is of common sense.
Yeah.
It is not scheming. You don't give yourself enough time to scheme, manipulate, or think of an outcome, all that. You react with common sense.
Yeah.
Which is like, I throw a ball at you. The common sense is to not take it on the chin.
Right.
Your common sense is to duck because it's futile to take it on the chin. There is some kind of collateral. So you avoid. So it's the same thing. And we are not able to do that as individuals or as a tribe or a group is because we are not in the present. You see the connection where, like, how I look at it.
Yeah.
We don't have enough emotional quotient because we lost the art of developing that. And we are not having that emotional quotient because we are not living in the present. And because we are not living in the present, we are not able to react with common sense. And empathy is a lot of common sense than anything else. We have hyper glorified empathy so much that we think it is an acquired art.
Right.
It is not, according to me.
Yeah.
Common
And sense is not an acquired art.
It's not an acquired art. Which means empathy is not an acquired art. And again, the reason why I, highlighted that statement of Jiddu Krishnamurti of observation with
It's
zero
one of my
judgment
favorite quotes.
is the highest form of intelligence.
Yeah.
Observation is not an acquired art. It is a honed skill. You have the ability to observe. You just need to practice it enough. Everybody has common sense. You need to practice it enough.
Yeah.
Right? Wherever you get a chance, wherever you get an opportunity, your first go-to should be, okay, what does my common sense tell?
Exactly.
And then worry about the practicality of it, the application of it, the ethical ground or the moral ground of it. Put all those filters like an Instagram post. I don't give a fuck. But your bare thought or your bare reaction should be on the foundation of common sense.
Unfortunately, in today's times, it is going on the foundation of intelligence and not common sense.
It is about how complex you can make the decision-making
the
process,
intellect
which is
and all that.
ridiculous.
With common sense has nothing to do with academic education,
Yeah.
degrees.
Yeah.
Some of our villagers have the best common sense that you can find.
Absolutely.
But and that's where it also connects to your earlier point, which is common sense also is more closer to wisdom than it is closer to intelligence or intellect. And that's why empathy also is more closer to common sense.
And you know what is the highlight of common sense? It has nothing to do with your emotional quotient, your intelligent quotient, or your spiritual quotient. It has nothing to do with your status or, the kind of watch you wear or what kind of cars you drive. Most importantly, it has nothing to do with your competence.
Yeah.
Nothing. It is purely independent.
Yeah.
All you have to do is understand how to recognize it.
Yeah.
And
value it.
And value it. I mean, first steps, baby steps. You recognize it, you apply it, you see the output. I mean, you want a proof of concept, fair enough. Don't value it right away, but at least use it, put it in action, see the result, and then you'll like, okay, fine, what makes sense? I've never seen anybody says that common sense is not valuable.
Yeah.
I've never heard. And the target group I'm talking about are people who are really successful.
Yeah.
In fact, they always told that what brought me out of a problem was the commonsensical thinking.
Right.
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 So I think that is the toughest part. Why, we make empathy not easy is because we don't think from a commonsensical standpoint.
Yeah. And we mentioned earlier about how, things are today and how the situation is today, etc. One other small, note for our listeners that I want to add is please do not forget the element of sabotage that is there in this. It is not something that, it just happened because, the seasons changed and the weather or the planets moved in a certain. No, it is being actively done. So please never forget about that. There is an element of sabotage in this.
Yeah.
Someone is very actively trying to influence the common conscious. So that means
It's a Jupiter, guys.
Saturn. So
Saturn and the
ThyGap
Jupiters.
conspiracy. But that means that when there is, an act of aggression from other side, then that means that our response to that also has to be strategic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just behave like, from out of the blue, this is just happening. No,
And common sense is not morality, by the way.
it's not. Yeah.
Please, there's another big problem where common sense is often confused with ethical behavior or moral behavior. No,
Yeah.
common sense is what is purely right for that situation.
Yeah.
And it is unbiased. And in the example that you said about the whole supermarket thing,
Right.
the reason why people get restless, in what my observation is, when people get restless in a queue line is because they want things to happen faster.
Yeah.
The common sense is do the math. There is one person who's billing, packing, and
Exactly.
doing
billing,
scanning
packing,
and everything,
yeah.
right? If there are two hands, it's faster.
Yeah.
So you really want the process to be faster?
Lend a hand.
Yeah, like roll up your sleeves, get into it,
Yeah. It's your stuff with your groceries.
right? Like I would go to a point, if you're really busy or if you're really tied up with time, do it for others also. The guy who's standing in front of you.
Yeah. Help out.
Like help out,
Why
right?
not? It helps you also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is where, which is why I tie up this common sense point, because the common sense always gives the right solution to your problem.
Right.
We don't do it because we're not thinking about, we don't look at problems in the sense of making things easier for us. We look at problems as an opportunity to showcase our intellect,
Right.
whether it is our problems or somebody else's problems.
Yeah.
That is where we lose empathy in the first place itself.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I get very annoyed is the paradoxical nature of the cliches. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's not the outcome, it's the process.
Right.
And then suddenly you also like, by the way, time is money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, bro,
Exactly.
you got to stick to one, right? Or you have to say like, all these are there. You pick and choose things which suit that situation.
Yeah. And
So-
between those two things that you mentioned, Brute, those two contradictions, there is a lot of gray area that nobody talks about, nobody mentions, except for the ThyGap podcast. And that is why
We are
you
the
must-
gray. We are the gray. It's
Yeah.
like, what is that guy who says in Breaking Bad? I'm not in danger.
I'm the one who knocks.
No, the line, the dialogue before that is, I'm not the one who's in danger. I am the danger. I bring the danger or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that. So yeah,
So yeah, and that is why you must subscribe and share. That is our
and
episode.
fund it. I think
And fund
we
it.
are going to add fund also,
Fund
like
also,
very
yeah.
soon.
Yeah, a lot of people have disposable income nowadays.
A lot.
So, what did you guys think about empathy? There must be your own perspective, your own examples. Give us your examples, especially those that are not those melodramatic, sympathetic situations, situations which are non-emotional, but still they're empathetic. And have you had experiences in your life where, just the actions, you just did empathy in action and you saw people change?
Or the other way around, even if you're at a receiving end of somebody's
And
empathy.
you changed because of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That also would be great to read. So definitely write to us. On Instagram, we are,
@_ThyGap,
and Twitter and Vero.
@ThyGap,
And our email is.
mindthygap@gmail.com.
So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is why empathy, it's not easy.
Not at all easy. And a good Thursday.
And as we always say at the end, ThyGap Podcast, subscribe
And share.
and share.
Fund it.